This is Jeopardy! Player one.
Yeah!
Player two. Player three. And now, here is the host of Jeopardy!
Player one, start us. 1992, Tears in Heaven. Player one,
Oh.
no. Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? Here's what we were looking for. Eric Clapton. We return to you, player one. Hope Was Here is a book about a teen waitress at the Welcome Stairways Diner in this dairy state. Yes, player one? Good, you're out of the hole. You again, player one. Ahab's wife tells a whale of a tale about a character mentioned briefly in this classic novel. Player one? Yes. Player one. Fever, 1793, depicts a teen's struggle during the 1793 epidemic of this colorful fever in Philadelphia. Okay, player one. Right. Player one. Back. A secret code called New Shoe is pivotal to the plot of Snowflower and the Secret Fan, set in this country. Yes, player one?
Yeah!
Good. Player one. Take a bite out of the Vampire Armand, the sixth book in her Vampire Chronicles. Yes, player one? That's not it. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? It's player three. Right you are. Player three, you're in command of the board as we continue, right? It's 237 minus 113. Yes, player one? That's it. Player one, make it 117 minus 47 minus 10 equals this. Yes, player one? Yes. You get to pick again, player one. 99 minus 55 minus 33 minus 11 equals this. Player one? Right you are. You get to pick again, player one. It puts the fire before technics and mania. Let's hear it, player one. That is correct. You again, player one. This prefix turns 1 byte of data into about 1 billion. Let's hear it, player one. Yes. Player one, pick again. 2010, Need You Now. Player one? That's correct. Player one, choose again. It follows hark in the first line of a 17th century hymn. Yes, player one? Right you are. Player one, choose again. That every soul has one of these is not an article of faith, but St. Jerome says it is the mind of the church. Player one? Good for you. You again, player one. Capelli d'Angelo is an Italian food term for a type of this. Yes, player one? Correct. Player one, choose. It's the title of Tony Kushner's Pulitzer-winning play. It's player one. Sorry, that's wrong. Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? Let's hear it, player three. Correct. Player three, you start. Medically speaking, hemo, hema, and hemato all mean this. Yes, player one? Right. Player one, you start us off. Pia Jesu, sung by this young Welsh lass with the voice of an angel, has sold millions worldwide. Let's hear it, player one. No. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? Okay, player three. Right. Player three, you start. 1978. Just the Way You Are. Player one? Good. Yeah! Player one, where do we start? 1973. Killing Me Softly with His Song. Player one? No, that's not right. Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? It's player two. Good. Player two, you start. 1966. Strangers in the Night. It's player one. Correct. Player one, where do we start? It's the Daily Double. You are currently in the lead. So, what's your wager? And the clue. From the Latin for diminish, it's the term for a number from which another number is subtracted. You have maintained your lead. Way to go. Player one, 1127 minus 121 minus 116 equals this. It's player one. Sorry, that's wrong. Any other takers? It's player three. Right. Where do we begin, player three? Before standard and marine, it means below. Okay, player one. Yes. Player one. Before biography or graph, it means self. It's player one. That is correct. Player one, back to you. In 1930, this man led a march to the sea to collect salt in protest of a monopoly by the government of India. Player one? Good. Player one? This antitrust act from 1890 was designed to prevent monopolies in American business. It's player one. Yeah! Hey, you're right. Player one. Pick again. This corporation's monopoly on TV broadcasting in England was broken in the 1950s by ITV. Okay, player one. Correct. We return. His company's monopoly of steamship navigation on the Hudson River was broken by an 1824 decision of the U.S. Supreme Court. It's player one. Right you are. And we'll wrap up the board with this clue. The East had a monopoly on this material until the 6th century, when 2 monks smuggled out some worms. Yes, player one? Hey, you're right. Player two is in 3rd place, which means, of course, player two will select first in Double Jeopardy. Let's see what player two. Make a selection, please, as we continue. Mount Kosciuszko in New South Wales. Player one? Good. Player one, you start us off. Jugendstil is the German equivalent for this French term for the decorative style of the 1890s. It's player one.
Oh.
Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? The correct response is Art Nouveau. Dubuffet coined this term from the French for to bring together for works made of bits of things. Okay, player one. That's correct. We return to French for deceive the eye. This technique tricks you into thinking a painted object is real and not two-dimensional. Okay, player one. Sorry, that's wrong. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? Okay, player three. Sorry, that's wrong. Any other takers? Let's hear it, player two. Yes. All right, let's get back into this. Player two has control. The name of this odd movement, French for hobby horse, was appropriately chosen at random from a dictionary. Yes, player one? Right. Player one, make a selection, please. French term for the technique of placing paper over a relief surface and rubbing with crayon or pencil. Okay, player one. That's not it. Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? Here's what we wanted. Frottage. Player one, you pick again, please. 1970's #1 hit for Helen Reddy. Yes, player one? No. Sorry. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? Here's what we wanted. Delta Dawn. Select again. These waves of roughly 7 to 13 hertz are associated with relaxation and creativity in the brain. It's player one. No, that's not right. Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? Let's hear it, player three. Hey, you're right. Where do we begin, player three? Pico de Teide, in the Canary Islands. It's player 1. That's correct. Player 1, you're in command of the board. This Swiss watch company was founded by Louis Brandt in 1848. It's player 1. That is correct. Player 1, in this type of testing, electronic equipment is subjected to the real-world conditions in which it'll be used. Let's hear it, player 1. You are correct. Select again. She became the advertising global spokeswoman for T-Mobile in 2002. Yes, player 1? Good. Player 1, back to you. Answer? One of the daily doubles. You are currently in the lead. Please enter your wager. Answer this. To make a simple fire extinguisher, put vinegar in baking soda, producing this gas that will put out a flame. However, you keep your lead. The correct response is carbon dioxide. You get to pick again, player 1. Around 1910, for chemical company BASF, Carl Bosch learned to make quantities of this gas from nitrogen and hydrogen. Player 1? Sorry, that's wrong. Anyone else? Player 2. Right. Player 2, start us. DuPont owns the trademark to this refrigerant gas introduced in the 1930s to replace hazardous substances. Okay, player 1. Sorry, that's wrong. Anyone else? The correct response is Freon. You get to pick again, player 2. It immediately precedes lithium on the periodic table. It's player 1. Good. Player 1, the name of this gas comes from the Greek for strange. Let's hear it, player 1. Correct. Player 1, pick again. Phnom Aural. Let's hear it, player 1. Sorry, that's wrong. Any other takers? It's player 3. That is correct. Where do we begin, player 3? You can weigh up to 147 pounds in this boxing class between lightweight and middleweight. Okay, player 1. That is correct. Player 1, you're in command of the board. In Central America, Doyle's Delight, not Victoria Peak as was thought. Let's hear it, player 1. You are correct. Player 1, you pick again, please. In East Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro. Player 1. Yes. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. This future U.S. president graduated from West Point in 1915, 61st in a class of 164. Yes, player 1? Correct. Player 1. This fighter for a woman's right to vote died in 1906, 14 years before the 19th Amendment made her dream a reality. Let's hear it, Player 1. Yes. Select again. Heads up. This 16th century British king had 6 wives and a 2-door garage. It's Player 1. Yes. You again. Hold the phone, said Elisha Gray and Thomas Edison, who both sued this Scottish-born inventor and lost. Player 1? Right. Player 1. Back in 45 BC, this Roman's army defeated the 2 sons of Pompey. It would be his final battle. It's Player 1. That's correct. You get to pick again. Kelly will present this clue.
Popular in the British Isles and the Commonwealth, it's the sport being played here.
Let's hear it, Player 1. That's correct. Player 1. Answer. The other daily double. You are in first place. Player 1, please select your wager. And the daily double clue. This ABC show debuted April 29, 1961, with Jim McKay as host. Congratulations, you're still in first, Player 1. You again, Player 1. In 1967, Memorial Coliseum in this West Coast city hosted the first Super Bowl. Green Bay beat Kansas City 35-10. Okay, Player 1. Right. And we'll wrap up the board with this clue. In 2006, Massachusetts made this sport, invented there, the official sport of the Commonwealth. Okay, Player 1. Good. I'll see you all for Final Jeopardy in just a moment. Everything depends on Final Jeopardy, of course, so let's take a look at the category, shall we? Historic New York City. You need to select your wager. And now the final clue. The USA's first Labor Day parade in 1882 went from City Hall to this square just north of 14th Street. What did you say? And that correct response will add. What did you say? And that will cost you. Let's see your response. How much do you add to your total with that correct response? You've come out ahead as our champion, Player 1. So long, everybody.